Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. We open on an Amazonian tribe that's survived for generations without men. They periodically leave the village and find men to impregnate them, then return here to raise the child or chuck it out if it's a boy.
Male child.
No man's sword has ever been able to penetrate their greatest warrior Hundra, so her mother pleads with her to get laid. She doesn't want her youngest daughter Shandrom to get pregnant first and pulls buns out of the oven to get the point across. The only thing getting between Hundra's legs is her horse, and the only male in this village is her dog Beast, but he's a total coward. While they're out hunting for the day, a tribe of barbarians led by the chieftain Gordoza raids the village. The women try to fight back but are vastly outnumbered, so as many as they take out, a couple more just run along and kill them in return. Notable deaths include woman trying to protect her daughter from 3 attackers, but they get skewered together by the 3rd. There's also Hundra's mother, who Shandrom tries to protect, but the unnamed woman gets dragged off by a horseman and beheaded by a foot soldier. Shani kills a few attackers before being disarmed and chased down into the woods, where she's ravaged by a trio of men. A standout among the warrior women uses her tent pole to deflect a javelin, then clotheslines a horse to dismount the rider. She beats him to death, then picks up a mace and runs down another guy along with his double-teaming barbarian friend. She ragdolls one more before finally a 5th man is required to take her down with a spear, but this woman isn't done yet. She wanders over to Shandrom and pincushions herself to one of her attackers, but there are still 2 more who kill the little sister. When Hundra returns home, she finds nothing left of her tribe, just the 16 surviving barbarians still left pillaging the village. They chase her through the wilderness until she pulls over by some rocks to prepare an ambush with her bow and arrows. Beast ushers horse to safety while Hundra shoots 3 men, then retreats onto the rocks and takes out another 3 with her throwing knives. It then becomes messy trying to keep count of who's actually dying as she fights her way to the top of a large boulder. There appears to be only 3 barbarians left, and Hundra kills 2, but the 3rd forces her back off a cliff to another. She just rolls into a thrust, and when Captain Hornhead leaps down, Hundra trips him over and cuts off his head below screen. He was one of the men who ravished her little sis, and Hundra loots the bodies to find a cooked turkey leg that gives her full health. Beast demonstrates his cowardice and runs away when the other man who killed Shandrom sneaks up behind Hundra with a rock. Fortunately, she has eyes in the back of her head and a turkey leg for strength, so she pushes the man backwards and the rock crushes his skull. To find out what she must do next, Hundra travels to the land of the little people, where men are allowed to exist with the Amazons, but only in their shortest form. They guard the oracle Chrysula, who says that Hundra must replenish the tribe, but that goes against the warrior woman's no pork swords rule. The oracle boasts about giving birth 10 times, so Hundra's like, fine, I'll go to the nearest town and borrow somebody's penis. On her way out, however, a 3-foot-tall William Wallace riding a donkey offers his seed because even the little men gotta shoot their shots. He doesn't like to be called little, so Beast runs away again when the pint-sized stud draws a salad fork and charges at Hundra. Somehow dismounting her along with himself, he tries to nail Hundra to the ground like Gulliver's Travels, but she just disarms him with ease. She decides to spare his brave little heart, so he makes one last Hail Mary attempt but splats on a rock like a bug on a windshield. On her journey, Hundra comes across a barbarian with half a dozen female slaves, so she thinks this is the perfect man to fill me with his seed. She strolls up to his camp in the dead of night with an attitude that he's never seen out of a woman before and grabs his meat, which is Amazonian for "give me your meat." They go inside an abandoned building that has a fully furnished bedroom, but Hundra left her weapons outside so she doesn't kill him by accident. When he gets aggressive, however, she decides that this one isn't worth it, so he beats 50 Shades of Grey out of her for giving him blue balls. He even uses his whip to pinball her from wall to wall, but Hundra gets a grip of his navy beans, and that's a wrap for any man. She unleashes a barrage of wrestling moves to knock all the marbles from his head, then uses her legs like he did the whip to bounce him off the walls. The finisher comes by way of a body slam from the top rope with double Donkey Kong hammer fist and a victory pose from the bloodied Hundra. It takes her screaming at the timid slaves to make them run away, but the moment she goes to leave, they all return to clean up their master. Accomplishing nothing with that whole endeavor, Hundra visits a city because there's bound to be men here willing to hit it and quit it. She comes across the king's servants taking virgins from their parents to be trained as sex slaves, so Hundra gets right up in their faces looking to apply. I'm not even sure why she gets all up in their grill, because they just grab the girl and scurry off, so she definitely wasn't trying to stop them. Landrazza now has some extra food since his granddaughter was just kidnapped, so he gives it to Hundra for trying to help, but she really didn't. Meanwhile, the girl is delivered to King Napatkin for grooming, but none of the new arrivals tickle his nether regions. His pimp Rotahar says that the stock will improve, but not if they keep slaughtering babes and not capturing any alive. King Napkin orders Hundra to be collected, however his servant only brings 2 guards, so he mustn't know who he's dealing with. The warrior woman knocks them both out and spins around with one man on her shoulders until she just gets bored I guess and wanders off. She then jumps on her horse and evades capture by climbing onto the rooftops while Landrazza gets his licks in where he can. Beast brings the horse around to Hundra, who drops down off the roof and makes it to the gate, but it's too well guarded. She climbs up the wall again, and when there's nowhere left to run she uses the soldiers' own spears to defeat them. Hundra even mocks a man who she stabs in the balls and uses the wait around the corner trip technique that gets them every time. Eventually forced to the tallest tower, she lowers herself down with a crane, and when the guards try to grab her swings away in some high-flying acrobatics. She pulls the soldiers off the wall, then falls herself in the only confirmed stunt that the actress didn't perform herself. Crashing through the roof and landing on the bed of a man named Pateray. She likes the cut of his jib, so immediately asks him to father her child. He isn't interested and asks her to leave, so she uses her throwing knives to trap him against the wall and threatens to force it out of him. Since none of this arouses Pat, the Amazon decides to submit herself to the temple of sex slaves to learn how to be more seductive. She figures if that's what it'll take to make Pat stick it in her, and trusts that she will be able to escape at any moment she wants. The temple is just a large cave where they worship a bull and fornicate with women who've been coached by the head sex slave Tracima. Once they're given a makeover and become obedient, they get given to the local chieftains for ravishing in the back of the cave. Hundra goes through the beautification process and comes out the other side looking like a Barbie doll, but with the attitude of a G.I. Joe. Tracima is supposed to have the defiance disciplined out of the new recruits, but is secretly being trained by Hundra on how to defend herself. The Amazonian is teaching her hip throws and booty tosses in exchange for lessons on how to act like a normal human being. Track teaches the savage how to use cutlery, then under cover of darkness takes Hundra back to Pat's place for the grand reveal. Pat shockingly exclaims that she's a woman like he couldn't tell before, then takes her virginity and gets her pregnant all in a single night. Outside, Tracima gets harassed by a bunch of soldiers, but she forgets all of her Amazon judo training and freezes up. Hundra comes out one conception later and encourages Track to fight back with the line that she can lie with them or stand with her instead. She bites off one soldier's nose and the two beat the crap out of some drunk perverts, then run back to what I assume is Tracima's house. Hundra says that she's become conflicted because she needs to replenish the Amazon ranks but also wants to stay here and bone Pat some more. We flash forward 9 months to Hundra giving birth, and it's fortunately a baby girl, otherwise she would have had to throw it out I suppose. In the morning she's already packed her things ready to leave with the baby, and there isn't a damn thing the father can do about it. Pat doesn't really care anyway and just tells her good luck, but should she ever need his seat again she knows where to find it. Returning to grab the baby from Tracima, it turns out this traitor went and told the king after everything Hundra did for her. Finally, with some leverage, Napatkin demands she participate in a humiliation ritual or else they'll feed her newborn baby to the vultures. Since she doesn't want to wait another 9 months, Hundra allows them to dress her like a dork to be paraded around in front of the chieftains. First she must bow to them, then get on her knees and pleasure Gordoza, who managed to survive her onslaught in the beginning because the coward ran away. During this time Tracima had a change of heart, and before anything touches Hundra's lips she rescues the baby being guarded by Rotahar. She just uses her training to kill the effeminate pimp with his own knife, then shows Hundra that the king has lost his leverage. The warrior woman fights back, and even when they've got her surrounded and unarmed, all of the chieftains are completely useless. Pat throws her the sword that she uses to cut down Gordoza, then goes on to slaughter everyone in obnoxiously overdone slow motion. Most notable deaths are man who has his balls kicked into his throat and man who drops from ceiling but gets electrocuted by a sword. During this time the king tries to take out the baby but just manages to stab Pat in the hand because he can't even do that right. Beast finally musters the courage and saves Hundra's daughter, but what does he get for his trouble? Shanked by a dude named Napatkin off screen. The king then tries to flee but is trapped by the inspired slave girls, who all hold him down for a traditional death by snoo snoo. The king suffocates with a smile on his face, and in the morning there's no argument from Pat about Hundra taking his child. They just say their goodbyes and she collects her baby from Tracima in what looks like a bed made out of Beast. Fortunately it's not, and the dog survived, but you can be sure that Beast won't insert himself into any more fights in the future. They return home and the narrator says that Hundra's spirit lives in all women who remember to follow through. And the movie ends.